Good morning and welcome to Denbigh in Wales. I'm here for a few days with the rest of my extended family, and we're staying in Abbey Cottage in Denbigh. Apparently, according to the owners, they say it's the oldest property in Wales. Now, I did Google the oldest property in Wales, and actually there is another place that's said to be older. But certainly the cottage, parts of the cottage are very old, and they date back to this old friary, this old abbey that we're right next to. This was a Carmelite friary here in Denbigh, and the cottage we're staying in is all sort of connected to that. It's literally next to me here, just a few metres away. But yeah, so we're going to spend hopefully a week here in Wales. That's the plan, unless I need to go back to Poland. But yeah, part of Wales I don't know. So I'm in the centre of Denbigh, and here next to the library we have a statue to Sir Henry Morton Stanley, who was one of the great explorers and who famously met Dr. Livingstone in Africa. And said Dr. Livingstone, I presume. And Sir Henry Stanley was actually born in Denbigh, apparently. So here we have Denbigh town walls. So unfortunately we can't get into here, but this is Leicester's church, which was the first great Protestant church to be built in Britain after the Reformation, and it was built by Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, hence the name Leicester's Church, who was one of the favourites of Queen Elizabeth I. So apparently the church was never completed, but it was designed for Puritan worship. So it has large windows, but they were clear windows so that people could read the Bible, read the liturgy, rather than usual stained glass windows. And it also says here that its first vicar was William Morgan, who in 1588 was the first to translate the Bible into Welsh. So interesting history related to that church. Here we have the impressive ruins of Denbigh Castle. So lovely views from the castle over the surrounding countryside. And if I just scroll down, look at the size of the well. Just the width of it is incredible. So these are the Denbigh town walls. If you want to walk on these walls, you need to get a key from the castle, £5 deposit, because the walls are locked, or the padlock gates. Some rather lovely little gardens down there. And then a good view of Leicester's church over there. Apparently only the English were allowed to live in Denbigh. Lovely gardens down here. Look at this. Very impressive. So this is the Goblin Tower, and this was an important part of the defences of the castle because the well in the castle would often dry up in the summer, so they needed another reliable source of water. So this is what this is built for, and I think this is the well here. Apparently this castle came under attack a number of times during its history, but apparently there are cannonballs still embedded in the walls of the castle to this day. So just following these steps down, just being very careful because they're very slippy. This is, as I say, is not part of the castle tour that most people would do. In fact, I don't think most people would know about these walls, but they're fascinating. It really makes the entrance fee into the castle worth it. And here we are, bottom of the well. This for me is the most interesting part of the castle, because the main Denbigh Castle, whilst it's nice to look around, is like lots of old ruined castles, but these old walls are fascinating, and because you need to get a key and pay a £5 deposit for the key as well, most people don't come here. In fact, I don't think most people are even aware that the walls exist. So if you're coming to Denbigh Castle, definitely do the walk around the walls.
That's another garden.
So here we have the gate to get onto the walls. You can also pick up a key apparently from the library. So welcome to Flint Castle in Wales. This rather impressive ruin is actually free to go into, and apparently it's quite a special castle because of its military structure and design. It's in a very strategic location overlooking England, so the other side of the estuary is the Wirral. Considering this is a free castle to enter, it's really impressive. In fact, there are castles you pay to go into that are not as interesting as this. Flint gets its name from the rocky outcrop on which the castle was built, and it's built right next to the Dee estuary, England just on the other side of the Dee estuary, so the castle could be easily supplied from the sea and was an important strategic foothold in Wales. So this sculpture behind me is entitled "Lest We Forget," and he's actually holding a laminated letter, and it says, "Dear Tom, I hope this letter finds you well and in good spirits. We are looking forward to Easter as best we can. Wishing you were back home with us, safe and sound." And it's addressed from mum and dad, or mother and father, to a soldier serving in the First World War, 1916. So you got another sculpture here. Fishing is obviously very important, or was very important, on this coastline by the Dee. So sculpture recognising the importance of fishing for this community in this area, and she's overlooking Flint Castle. So one of the interesting things about Flint Castle, according to the information board here, is that in August 1399 Henry Bolingbroke deposed Richard II to take the English crown, becoming Henry IV, and that took place here at Flint Castle. So this is St Winefride's chapel, and behind us is a holy well, a national shrine, which is called the Lords of Wales, Lords being a important Catholic shrine in France. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I wasn't expecting to see what effectively looks like a swimming pool with people. So I'm just going to tell you about the tradition associated with this holy well, and I'm going to have to read this because I can't remember it, but Winefride was a Welsh virgin martyr of the 7th century, and according to legend, one day her suitor Caradoc became enraged when he discovered that she intended to become a nun. He attempted to seduce her, but she broke free of his grasp and fled to the church at Holywell, which had been built for her by her uncle, St. Bino. Caradoc pursued her and cut off her head. In the place where it fell, a spring of water came forth. On hearing the commotion, St. Bino came out of the church and placed her head back on her body, said a fervent prayer, and Winefride was restored to life, bearing just a white scar encircling her neck where Caradoc's blow had fallen. Winefride became a nun and lived at Holywell for 8 years before joining a community where she eventually became abbess, dying there some 22 years later. By the 12th century, her popularity had become so great that in 1138 her relics were translated to Shrewsbury Abbey, which became a major pilgrimage centre. After it was destroyed by Henry VIII in 1540, veneration of St. Winefride returned to Holywell, where her story continues to inspire, comfort countless pilgrims to this present age. So that's the history, the legend, the story about this place, and it still attracts many pilgrims to this day who come to bathe in the waters here at Holywell. There's lots of graffiti on the walls. It's very old graffiti, so 1618 there. And on this wall, even older, 1595, 1604. What's really interesting to see how this is still clearly a very popular pilgrimage shrine. Apparently royalty have been here, including Richard I, Richard the Lionheart, before he went on his crusades, and I think Henry V also came here. So an important shrine. So I wasn't sure what to expect here. I wasn't even sure about coming in, but it's certainly worth a visit if you're in the area. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit this video, whether it's going to be a series of different little videos or one longer video, but I'm going to my third castle today here in Wales. So I've been to Denbigh Castle, I've been to Flint Castle, and I'm now going to another castle called Ewloe. And well, that's how it's pronounced apparently. It's spelled E-W-L-O-E. It's in Flintshire in Wales. It's close to the English border. Apparently it was one of the last Welsh castles to be built by the Welsh princes before the English conquered Wales, and the English deemed it of little strategic importance. So when the English took control of Wales, apparently the castle was let go, really, just allowed to fall into disrepair. Anyway, it's in a little wooded setting down a little valley, and again, like Flint Castle, this one is free to go into. So let's go and see what we can find. And here we have the castle. Almost didn't notice it there, hidden in the trees. A rather lovely setting in this wooded valley. So there's an information board here which says that Ewloe Castle is a mystery. The only reference we have of it states that in 1257, I'm not even going to pronounce that name, built a castle in the corner of the woods, and that's it. But the suggestion is that maybe it was just simply a statement of power, but it is an unusual location for it to be built in the woods. In fact, the height of the keep would barely peak above the trees. I thought I had this place to myself, but seemingly not. So you're basically in the tree canopy up here. I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to see Ewloe Castle, but if you are passing by or staying in the area, then yeah, it's an interesting place to visit. Unusual location, as I say, in a wood, but still fun to explore.